So if you're an artist in Los Angeles, there's very few ways of getting your art seen. You either have to be one of Eli Broad's special pets, or sleep with me to get into the pages of Artillery. Neither of which I recommend, and if you see me shirtless, I think you'll agree with me. So the public, we choose every type of culture. We choose what we see, what we hear on the radio, the songs we download, the movies we go to, but the art we see is made by very few people and selected to be shown by even fewer. So as Banksy said, famous graffiti artist, when you go into an art gallery, you are simply a tourist looking at the trophy cabinet of a few millionaires. Now, city walls are egalitarian. They're cheap, they're available to everyone, they're the best way to get your work seen by thousands, if not millions, and they're a gallery that's always open and always free, regardless of Target sponsoring a certain night to be available for everyone. So, since before time was recorded, people have felt the need to express themselves with words and images in public places. So obviously we have the caves in Lascaux, which everyone is familiar with. So the nomadic cave dwellers put these up. Now, frustrated Egyptian pyramid workers scribbled Cleopatra drank too much on their work areas. This is true. In hieroglyphics, they made comments about what Cleopatra made them do. World War II, we see chalk drawings on tanks, and every time there's been an attempt to smother freedom of speech, graffiti is an accessible method of communication. So this is taken recently from El Salvador, and it says, "Why do you defend a system that everyone else in the world rejects?" So are these people vandals because they've written on the streets? Now, I think we need to define that there's two types of graffiti. There's the rambling, obscure, and sometimes offensive graffiti that we scribbled on walls in high school. And then the tangible, political, accessible graffiti. So I'm not talking about Julie and Jeff equals love carved into a bench, and not just because that whore cheated on me with Jeff. Yeah, that's right. All right, and I'm not talking about the tags any more than an artist's signature is symbolic of their work. Now, gang members have little interest in the aesthetics of a city. They're just marking their territory. They're pissing on the walls. Now, artists I've talked to, they look upon themselves as doing the city a public service. So if you could say, okay, well, what is art? How do I know what's art and what's tagging, what's just graffiti? And I think it's like the Supreme Court of pornography, that you can't define it, but you know it when you see it. So, again, you look at Banksy above the streets of Melrose, I'd say this is art, where the people tagging on stop signs, probably not. And I say that the blight on our city is not graffiti, and that I'm shocked that it's right now not the city of LA versus Josh Herman for all the hit and runs I've been in on Sunset Boulevard from the ads that we see. And I think that's the blight on our city. I'll just continue doing my rebuttal time. So.
I'm speaking on behalf of the city of Los Angeles. They have a community beautification program which encompasses graffiti removal and graffiti education. And in the past year, there was 653,520 incidents of reported graffiti or vandalism. 31,748,959 square feet of graffiti removal. They were unable to send a representative because they had spent all their money removing graffiti. That's your money, taxpayers. That's your money. That's $4 to $5 million of taxpayer money every year. That's $4 to $5 million that could have built 5 of you homes. Graffiti removal, techniques for removing graffiti is sandblasting. Sandblasting creates environmental problems by putting dust in the air, thus promoting more smog in the city. A lot of the places people spray paint graffiti and make their so-called political actions, as Josh put it, are next to rivers where nobody else sees it. They paint next to rivers and the paint drips down into the river and then flowing into the ocean, killing our fish. And when you kill our fish, that makes less tuna sandwiches for each and every one of you. And to deal with the problem, the city, again, has to take your money out of your wallet and paint over that graffiti. Then it's an endless cycle, it's an endless vicious cycle of graffiti removal, which is costing $4 to $5 million, like I said. The other problem with graffiti is lack of creativity. There are people people that are considered graffiti artists in Los Angeles who I would sort of argue with. Robbie Cannell is somebody who's, I've heard the term graffiti artist thrown around. And I think, is Robbie here? I heard a rumor that Robbie was going to be here.
He didn't make it.
He didn't make it, okay. So Robbie Cannell is an artist and a poster maker first, and he happens to place his work on electric boxes and in other places around Los Angeles. And I've also taken part of wheat pasting his posters around. That doesn't make me a graffiti artist. That makes me a supporter of culture. As a struggling small business owner, it hurts my business and costs me money every time a piece of graffiti is removed from the front of my building.
To go back to something, I just want to bring up the billboards in the city. That Los Angeles has more billboards than anywhere else in the world. And they make $186 annually per billboard. And the billboards, the digital ones, $128,000 monthly is what the people who put them up make. And if we're talking about the legality of it, there was a recent article in the LA Weekly, 40% of billboards in Los Angeles are illegal. And I find those to be much more of an eyesore than the tagging and the graffiti art that goes up. And a lot of times those are what's targeted more so than buildings. So we're talking a 40-foot illegal billboard with no repercussions, but an artist can be arrested for putting up an 8x12 stencil on a wall. I'm going to go to some images here of what artistic heights are possible in achieving from graffiti art. So first we have obviously the ubiquitous Obama poster done by Cioffi Ferry that's been up everywhere. Now he's trying to get people to vote. This is going up everywhere. I just got my Mad magazine in the mail yesterday. They did one of Alfred E. Newman in the same post. So clearly it's entered the public consciousness. We also have Black Lorat, who's a French graffiti artist, who this is Florence Arguelles. She was kidnapped in Iraq. So what he did was, he was worried that people would forget about her. So he went up re-postering her image all around Paris to make people aware of it and to remember her so that she wouldn't just fall by the wayside. And she was returned because people started protesting. Then of course, I think my opponent and I can both agree that we love Israel. But Banksy in Palestine, putting this up all over the walls in Palestine. I mean, this is the largest open-air prison, is what Banksy says, and he's trying to make it beautiful so that people walking by can see the beauty of it. A message behind money with it is called advertising. While a public one is mere graffiti, I refuse to accept it.
I would agree about Israel, but I would also disagree with the French. We don't need any of those crazy French liberals telling us how to live our lives in America or in our beautiful state of California. I'm just going to tell people that all of you good citizens of Los Angeles, if you dial 311 on your phones, that's how you can report incidents of graffiti. You will be on record as anonymous citizens acting for the good of our beautiful state of California. A policeman and a graffiti removal service employee will be at your house the next day to remove graffiti from your house or your business. I guess my final statement is we live in the beautiful state of California, in our beautiful city of Los Angeles, and as citizens, you wouldn't deface this flag with graffiti. Don't deface California.
I think that as a taxpayer, we have a right to have a voice. Even though the streets are dominated by these advertisers screaming at us their messages, don't we have a right to scream back as taxpayers? Why should we have to remain silent? And again, 40% are illegal. And I say it's just aesthetic policing. That's a big word. That fosters a sterile Disneyland consumerist commercial aesthetic. It reflects a desire to transform Los Angeles into Singapore, or worse, a shopping mall, or worse, Hollywood and Highland. Do you want all of Los Angeles to look like Hollywood and Highland? When we lose the dirt, grit, and street life of major American cities, we also threaten their vitality, creativity, and character. I'm going to end with another Banksy quote that said, "Some people become cops because they want to make the world a better place. And some people become vandals because they want to make the world a better looking place." And I realize the irony of presenting an ad, but this was a brilliant absolute ad that showed Times Square with some of the great art through history presented upon it, which I think could be done if we do define what is art, what is not art. We don't see tagging, we just see beautiful works of art, the Banksys, the Blacks. I mean, and some people that are going to evolve into them that started as taggers. And finally, I think if we don't allow this to happen, this is what we're going to be left with.
You hold that?
Yes. It is someone removing the graffiti on the walls of Lascaux.